Thank you for watching the Fitness Feuds channel. Please watch the ads and share this video if you support this channel. Bodybuilding can often be a brutal sport with many ups and downs, twists and turns. It can take an average kid and turn him into a god, and then turn him back into a homeless person, with nothing left, not even his health. This type of lifestyle isn't for everyone, maybe not even for a bodybuilder as gifted as Flex Wheeler. Let's take a look at some of the major events in his life and try to determine if it was worth it. "1993 was not only Flex's pro debut, but it was his best year ever in competition. He earned several perfect scores, and won every pro show he entered, with the exception of the Mr. Olympia contest. In 1993, Flex Wheeler came in second place at the Olympia, losing the title to Dorian Yates. However, many believe that Flex should have won that contest. Flex brought the perfect package to the stage that year. He had the size, conditioning, and symmetry that is rarely seen today. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger commented,
"It's not a tumor."
One of the greatest bodybuilders he had ever seen. In 1993, Flex was the perfect athlete, and he was ready to dominate the sport in 1994. "1994 was going to be the year proportions and conditioning took over the sport, but Flex crashed his car on the Santa Monica freeway in Los Angeles. He sustained major injuries, including a broken neck and collarbone. Not only would this eliminate any chance of beating Dorian Yates in 1994, but it would cost him his sponsorship deals, leaving Flex unable to afford his home and car. To make matters worse, the mass game was now established, which meant by 1995, everyone had to gain weight to stay in the top 5.
As I laid there in bed, I was like, okay, I still can move, I was pretty much ahead of the game going into the Olympia, so I'd be able to make it. So up until 3 days later, when a doctor finally said, forget about it, I thought that I'd be able to go and compete.
So my first time competing against Dorian, I remember thinking, geez, I can feel this guy's presence next to me. I mean, that's how much space he's taking up next to me. And that's all I thought about it. I didn't think I was going to win or anything like that. I know after the show was the first and only time I met the great Serge Olympia.
Awesome.
And it was just like, I was like shaking in my boots, and we're going into the hotel together, and he opens the door for me. He goes, "You won that show." And I'm like,
unusual incidents that happened in Flex Wheeler's life was the infamous ninja attack. Apparently several ninjas tried to carjack him, but ended up getting their butts handed to them. The incident left Flex with an injured arm, unable to compete. But others claimed that Flex punched a wall because his conditioning was off.
Two people got out of the car. On the driver's had a gun, and on the passenger side, the other guy had some martial arts sticks that are called screamer sticks. The person with the gun pointed it at me and told me to exit the car. I got out. I took my keys with me. I'd already decided purpose. I didn't have intentions on just giving them to him. That startled him. At that time, the guy that had the gun, that distracted him, and he looked over to see what happened, and when I seen that it distracted him, I grabbed the gun. We fought, and I don't want to get into between, me and the two people, because I don't feel that it's important. Basically, the outcome of it was, I sustained some injuries, they both sustained more serious injuries than I did, to the point where they didn't have a need for a car anymore.
Now listen to Flex tell what really happened.
In 1994, unfortunately, when I sustained my car accident, very quickly my contract was taken away from me while I was still in the hospital. I wasn't given any chance, so at that time I damn near went bankrupt for no reason of my own. Ended up having to stay with Neon to get myself back on track. After that, a few years later, in 1997, I started having this problem at that time, colitis. So now I have a problem with eating. I eat for a living. Competing and everything like that. So I couldn't tell that. How am I going to go out and tell that? Because I was scared that I was going to lose my home and my contract again. So, I made a bad decision in coming up with a lie, because twice already the truth wasn't good enough. And that lie actually enabled me, unfortunately, to keep my contract and get myself back into the point where I could come back in 98.
Flex was now back on track, but his kidneys weren't. Ever since he was 14, he had a condition known as focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, which causes protein to leak into the urine. Unfortunately, it is a condition that does not support a bodybuilding lifestyle of high protein and high blood pressure. It eventually led to kidney failure and a kidney transplant for Flex Wheeler.
Probably over 40 surgeries, trying to save my life because of my rare kidney disease. So, I have so many scars on my body. It looks like I've been in a fight with Freddy Krueger and Jason. So, but more so than that, for me, what I understand personally is, even if I was in my prime and didn't have any problems, or I've had back surgeries and shoulder surgery since then and everything, but even if I was injury-free, the chance of competing at 100% of what I looked like before was pretty slim to none.
When I was 14, was the first time that they found out that I was leaking protein in my urine.
What a lot of people don't know, in '99, after the Olympia, about 3 hours later, I was on my way to the hospital. To be honest about it, the emergency team came and picked me up in my hospital room, and I was in my hotel, and I was so upset and embarrassed. He wheeled me out in front of everybody, but they actually had a sheet over me as if I had passed away, because I didn't want nobody to know I was on my way to the hospital. They had already told me before the Olympia that I had a rare kidney disease and that I wasn't going to make it out of my 40s unless I had a kidney transplant. So for me, I already know that how much longer can I do this because of the things I had to utilize to be able to compete at that level. So I was just kind of on autopilot, and almost it's surreal to think that here you are, you kind of look like a Superman image. You know, I don't want to use a word of a god or anything, but you definitely look like you're not from this planet. And how could something be so powerful that's gonna take your life? So I knew that was my setup. So what happened in 2000, I went back and I competed, and just things were not clicking for me. I was utilizing the same, drugs that I was doing before, but they just weren't working for me. And I ended up again in the hospital after the 2000 Olympia. So that's why I retired.
Winds up in the hospital, and the guy figured out of health problems. He's on a borrowed kidney. His back and arms are tattooed from here to eternity.
True.
It's just a hot mess. There's a lot of surgeries.
This comeback where he's going to be placing an extreme amount of stress on his body. He's going to have to take a lot of drugs. He's going to have to train really hard. He's going to have to, eat a lot of food. And all these things are going to be things that can potentially, and, we know are going to stress the kidneys.
I don't think it's smart. Anybody that has one kidney, you're out of your mind. You should thank God that you're alive, because I have a cousin who died from that. You know what I'm saying? From that same disease. And, a lot of things can happen. And like Dave said, you have to take things that keep that kidney from being attacked. Your immune system sees that as a foreign invader. You know what I mean?
The late 1990s were a time when everyone was experimenting with sight enhancement procedures, and some even experimented with silicone implants. Flex Wheeler was accused of having calf implants by Sean Ray, and Sean even asked the IFBB to investigate. Flex went on later to imply that it was really acetylcholine, and not implants, that gave him the big calves.
No, I never had calf implants. Listen, I understood that when we use certain substances that it caused a inflamed effect when we use certain substances in certain areas. I understood that. Now looking back and seeing that I never had weak calves, I actually had better calves back in my early years than I did in my later years. But what I thought, it's like, wow, if it causes that inflamed effect when I to certain areas, what if I did that to my calves? So I started doing that exact same thing to my calves and everything like that. I remember one time in my hotel room, Kevin coming in like, dude, what the fuck you doing to your calves? And I showed calves, and I showed you right then and there and showed you how. But I don't want to put you out there or anything like that, but I remember.
Perhaps Flex Wheeler's most important accomplishment came when put out the book and documentary, Dare to Dream, The Flex Wheeler Story. It is quite shocking, as Flex describes his battles with molestation, depression, suicide, and going from a poor skinny kid named Kenny to a millionaire, then back to being homeless. This work has helped countless people deal with their own struggles, and inspired them to keep fighting, and helping one another. Let's hope Flex's troubled past is all behind him, and he continues to help others. And he continues to help others.
It's not a tumor.